Few recognize it, but some pains in the body confirm you are a chosen one and you have a mission. This sentence may seem strong or even strange, but if you're here, you've probably felt this firsthand. An unexplained pain, a weight that no one sees, but that you carry. Something inside you knows there is a greater purpose. Perhaps you've sought answers and haven't found them. Perhaps you've tried to ignore it, but the pain persisted. Whether in body or soul, the discomfort is there. And it's not by coincidence. There is something you need to understand, accept, and live. And this mission, which is uniquely yours, begins to reveal itself when you decide to look inward. This content is an invitation, not to convince you of anything, but to remind you of what you already know, but perhaps have forgotten. The world needs awakened, conscious people who are willing to live with truth. And you feel that. You feel there is something special inside you, even if you can't yet explain it. Throughout this material, we will talk about the signs in the body, the role of the chosen, and how to begin to pave your path with more clarity and ease. No magical promises, only the truth you may be ready to hear now. And if it makes sense, proceed with an open mind and an attentive heart. I am George, and my role here is to share all of this with the utmost respect, simplicity, and truth. If this content touches you in some way, I kindly ask you, follow the channel. This helps bring this message to more people who also feel this pain, but have not yet understood that in truth, it is a calling. There is something more frustrating than feeling real pain and no one believing. You try to explain, but it seems others think it's an exaggeration. The pain is there, firm, bothering you every day. Sometimes it comes as a chest tightness, other times as absurd fatigue. Even after resting, you know it isn't normal. You go to the doctor, have tests, take medicine. The result? Everything is normal, but you don't feel normal. You feel drained, carrying a weight you don't understand where it comes from. The people around you try to help. They say it's just anxiety, that it will pass. But it doesn't pass. Deep down, you know there's something deeper. This pain isn't physical in the usual sense. It comes from somewhere else. It seems emotional, but it doesn't fit only that. It's as if something inside you is screaming, begging to be listened to. And since you don't hear, or don't know how to hear, the body begins to manifest. It becomes the messenger of what the soul tries to communicate. The problem is that our society has learned to silence these signals, to say it's in the head, to fix it somehow, to move on as if everything were fine. But you feel that everything isn't fine. And there's no more room to pretend. There's no more room to plaster a smile on your face and go on with the emptiness inside. The pain becomes a constant reminder. It forces you to stop, breathe, and look inward. It compels you to step out of autopilot and question what you're really living. Are you in the right place, with the right people, doing what you should be doing? These questions begin to arise, and it's no longer possible to ignore. You begin to notice that this pain, in fact, is the beginning of something. It's not punishment. It's not bad luck. It's a call, a kind of life alert of the soul, telling you that you're straying from your path. And when that happens, the body feels. It carries the impact of choices that do not respect your truth. Some people go through life ignoring these signals. They pretend everything is fine, keep living what others expect of them, and the pain only increases. Others, like you, stop, begin to observe, to feel, to understand that there is something behind this pain. And it's at that point that transformation can begin. It's frightening to realize that your pain has a purpose, because that means you'll need to change. You'll need to look at what you've avoided for so long. But it's also liberating, because from there, you discover you're not sick. You're just disconnected from who you truly are. And this pain wants to bring you back. What makes you different isn't feeling the pain. Everyone feels it at some point. What makes you special is recognizing that it has meaning, that it can be the starting point for something bigger, for a lighter, more honest life, more aligned with your essence. The pain that used to bring you down can lift you up. There's no ready answer, nor an easy path. But there is a step only you can take. Listen. Really listen to what your body is trying to show you. Because deep down, the pain doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to wake you up. And when you understand that, it transforms. It becomes strength, direction, and a signal that you're ready. Some sensations are difficult to explain. You live your life normally, but you feel that something is wrong. It seems like you're out of place, even though you're where you're supposed to be. It's as if there is a calling, quiet, subtle, but constant. You don't know exactly what it is, but you feel that there is something waiting for you somewhere. Since you were little, you've noticed that you're more sensitive. Things that don't affect others affect you. Situations that people consider normal bother you deeply. And over time, you learn to adapt, but you never feel completely matched. There's a sense that your life should be different, and that doesn't abandon you. Some spiritual traditions say that before birth, the soul chooses its own journey. It chooses the lessons, the challenges, the people it will cross. It even chooses the pains. It may seem strange, but what if it's true? What if this feeling of being out of place is just the reflection of something you already knew and forgot? Modern life teaches to follow a script. Study, work, marry, pay bills, and many people go through all of this without ever stopping to think if they are happy. They simply follow. But you don't. At some point, something in you awakens, and this something begins to bother you. It's no longer possible to pretend that the standard life works. This discomfort is the beginning of the return. The spirit begins to remember why it came to do, not with words, but with sensations. Sometimes it comes as sadness, sometimes as anxiety. It can come as a crisis, loss, or sudden change. Everything seems messy, but in truth, it's being reorganized. Because something inside you is trying to return to the axis. This memory that begins to surface is not mental. It's energetic. It's as if your soul was saying, you are prepared to remember. Not to remember the past, but your mission. That which makes your heart vibrate. And along with this memory comes the discomfort of everything that no longer makes sense. The most curious thing is that, even without knowing exactly what is happening, you feel you need to follow this impulse. Maybe you can't even explain to loved ones, but internally you know. You know you're not going crazy, that it's not a drama. It's the beginning of an awakening you didn't even know you were waiting for. Some people resist this call because it unsettles everything. It shatters certainties, changes routes, demands courage. But you've already begun to listen. You've begun to feel. And that shows you're ready to tread a new path. A path more truthful. More connected to what you came to do in this world. The mission you feel isn't an invented idea. It's something that pulses inside you. Something that has always been there. Just waiting for the right moment to be remembered. And now, that moment has arrived. You may not know all the steps, but you know the first one is to say yes. Yes to this feeling that has followed you for so long. To accept that you already knew, even without remembering, changes everything. It gives you strength to continue, even with fear. It gives you clarity to look at yourself with more love. And it reminds you that you are not lost, nor broken. You are merely waking up to what your soul has always known. And now, it wants to remind you who you are. Many people believe that the body only gets sick due to physical or emotional factors. But there is something deeper. The body is the first form the soul finds to communicate with you. When you move away from your truth, from your path, it begins to send signals. And these signals appear as pains, tensions, and repetitive symptoms. Pain is not the problem. It is the alarm. When it shows up and tests don't explain, perhaps the answer lies in your history, in your choices, or in your negations. Sometimes the body carries pains that aren't its own, inherited pains, absorbed or accumulated for years, and it carries until it can't anymore. You may live by trying to push this pain away with medicine, therapy, or distraction. You may even pretend it doesn't exist, but it will return, because pain doesn't want to be ignored. It wants to be heard. It's like a message from your soul saying, "Something is out of place here. Pay attention to me, and the more you flee, the stronger it comes." Each part of the body carries a different message. Pain in the shoulders may be the weight of others' expectations. A frozen stomach may be everything you swallow and never digest. A closed throat may be everything you didn't have the courage to say. Your body holds stories your mind has forgotten. When you learn to observe these pains with curiosity, not fear, something changes. You begin to treat yourself with more respect. You start listening before remedying. You begin to ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? That simple question can open paths you never imagined walking, because it leads you back to yourself. The body does not always get sick for something wrong. Sometimes it sickens to save you. It stalls, to stop you from continuing on a path that harms you. It tires, to force you to pause. It hurts, to show you that you are far from what makes sense. The body protects you, even when it seems the opposite. How many times have you followed a logical decision, yet felt a tightness in the chest? Or said yes when you wanted to say no, and felt nausea or a headache afterward? This is no coincidence. It is bodily wisdom. It is your soul trying to tell you you're going against yourself. And this communication needs to be taken seriously. When you rejoin with the body, you approach your essence. You start to respect your limits, your desires, your cycles, and that changes everything. Pain begins to lessen. Lightness returns. You feel whole again, because the soul at last feels heard. And that is what it wanted all along. It's not about spiritualizing everything. It's about truly listening. The body is your most faithful ally. It does not sabotage you. It does not lie. It does not manipulate. It only wants you to live with more truth, with more presence. And when you accept this invitation, healing happens. Not only the physical, but the healing that comes from the inside out. Listening to the body is an act of self-love. It is a way of telling your soul, I am here. I am listening. And when this listening becomes constant, life aligns. The body aligns. And you discover that, in fact, pain has always been the beginning of your re-encounter with who you truly are. Most people think that spiritual awakening is feeling light, illuminated, and at peace. But the beginning of awakening is precisely the opposite. It is when everything begins to crumble. It is the moment when certainties dissolve, masks fall, and you realize you were living a story that was not yours. And that hurts. It hurts to realize that you accepted to live for convenience, that you fit where you didn't belong for fear of disappointing, that you moved away from your essence to be loved. Awakening happens when you can no longer sustain that lie, when the emptiness screams louder than comfort, and when the pain forces you to look inward. This process is scary, because everything you believed starts to lose meaning. Relationships change, desires change, priorities change. It seems like the world has turned upside down. But in truth, it is only trying to align with what you really are. It is the messy before the order. It is the end of a cycle. You begin to move away from places you used to frequent. Conversations that once distracted you now bother you. You feel like staying quieter, retreating, looking at yourself. At first, this may seem like loneliness, but it is an inner retreat, a re-encounter with parts of you that were forgotten, suffocated, lost. It is common to feel anger, sadness, fear. These are old emotions that were kept and begin to emerge. Awakening brings to the surface everything that was ignored. But each emotion has a role. Each pain teaches you something. And instead of fleeing them, you begin to welcome them. You begin to understand that the process is more human than magical. With time, you realize that awakening is not about floating around. It is about walking with more truth. It is about looking in the eyes, saying what you feel, saying no when necessary. It is about stopping pleasing everyone and starting to please yourself. It is about respecting your truth, even when it upsets. Other people may not understand what you are living, and that's fine. Awakening is intimate. It is between you and you. Those who are ready will meet you on the way, and you do not need to explain anything to anyone. You only need to continue, even with fear, even in doubt, because this journey is yours, and it is worth it. After the pain, clarity begins. After fear, lightness comes. You begin to perceive that everything that hurt actually brought you here, to this moment of lucidity, where you start to see with new eyes, where you understand that living awake may hurt at first, but heals in a way nothing else heals. Awakening returns you to yourself. It is not about becoming someone better, more spiritual, more evolved. It is about being who you already were before adapting too much. It is about shedding the layers one by one until you find your essence. And when that happens, life changes, because now you are living with soul, not appearance. You do not need to have all the answers now. You only need to keep feeling, keep asking, keep saying yes to this transformation. Because awakening can be confusing, but it is true. And anything that is true transforms. You are not broken. You are awakening. And that is the best thing that could be happening to you. Why is it so hard to accept the call? Even while feeling that there is something greater, most people flee. And it's easy to understand why. Accepting that you have a mission requires courage. It requires change. It requires saying no to many things you accepted out of fear. And fear comes strong. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of losing people. Fear of looking crazy. It's easier to pretend nothing is happening. But not for long. The mission does not disappear. It just hides until you are ready. And in the meantime, the pain continues. Because your soul knows you were born for something more. You were chosen to do something unique in the world. Something only you can do, with your story, with your pains, with your light. Running from this may delay the process, but it does not cancel it. The mission awaits you, and when you decide to face it, everything begins to change. The turning point happens the moment you stop fighting what you feel. When you understand that resisting only prolongs what is trying to be healed. The pain is still there, but it no longer scares you as much. Now you know that it has something to say, and you start listening, even if you don't understand everything right away. With time, the body begins to relax. The mind slows down. The heart, which used to feel tight, finds room to breathe. You realize you no longer need to chase after everything, nor prove anything to anyone. Things aren't perfect, but they become lighter. The weight that used to follow you starts to loosen, and you begin to return. This process is quiet. There are no fireworks, no grand announcements. Alignment happens in daily life, in small choices. When you say yes, only when you want to, and no, without guilt. When you begin to prioritize what makes you feel good. When you move away from what drains you. That's when everything starts to fit together. You begin to notice the signals more clearly. Coincidences make sense. The right people cross your path. Doors open effortlessly. What once seemed impossible suddenly flows. It's not magic, it's alignment. It's life responding to your choice to live with more truth. You aren't forcing anything, you are allowing. Intuition becomes livelier. You start trusting it for real, and it guides you along paths that logic would never have suggested. Even without all the answers, you feel secure. You feel you are where you're supposed to be, because you are finally living with purpose. Living from your essence. And that changes everything. At this point, you understand that being chosen has nothing to do with being better. It has to do with sensitivity, with courage, with listening, with surrender. The chosen one is the one who, even when broken, chose not to give up. Who, even with fear, kept walking. Who understood that their pain does not define them, but leads them towards something greater. You begin to see the value of your own story. You realize that everything that hurt also prepared you. That every fall taught you something. And that your mission doesn't have to be grand to be important. It simply needs to be true. It simply needs to be lived with an open heart. Because the world doesn't need perfection. It needs presence. And then you understand that your role may not be to save anyone, but to be a beacon. A living reference that it's possible to endure pain and bloom. You become someone who doesn't judge, who doesn't force, who doesn't impose, but who, just by being at peace with who you are, inspires others to do the same. The healing you sought outside begins to arise inside, and this healing overflows. It reaches people, touches environments, opens paths, sometimes with words, sometimes just with the way you live. You become someone who transforms effortlessly, because you chose to live with authenticity, because you decided not to repeat the pains you inherited. You chose to do differently. And the most beautiful thing about all of this is realizing that the world needed you exactly as you are, with your story, your baggage, your marks. Nothing was in vain. Nothing happened by chance. Now everything connects. And you understand, when everything starts aligning inside, the outside world begins to flourish as well. If you have reached this point, it is because something inside you recognized this truth. The pain you felt, no matter how difficult it was, brought you to this moment. And now you know that it was not in vain. It was the most sincere way your soul called you back to yourself. You are chosen. Not because someone gave you that title, but because you decided to listen. You decided to feel. You decided to awaken. Being chosen isn't about greatness or recognition. It isn't about being better, more evolved, or having all the answers. It's about being present, about looking at yourself with courage, about noticing the signals that have always been there, but which now make sense. When you choose to hear the call, the walk changes, life changes, and you change along with it. Your mission doesn't need to impress anyone. It only needs to make sense to you. It may be something simple, like taking better care of the people around you, expressing yourself with more truth, living with more awareness. Each small choice aligned with your essence is part of the purpose. The important thing isn't the size of the mission, but the sincerity with which it is lived. You don't need to run. You don't need to understand everything right now. Awakening is a process, and each person experiences this process in their own time, at their own pace. What matters is to keep walking even with doubts, to keep listening even when the world around you seems to not understand, because the connection with your soul is stronger than any external noise. Throughout this content, we talked about pain, resistance, memory, awakening, and alignment. And all of this brought you here. This point at which you look back and understand nothing was in vain. Everything prepared you for this moment, for this encounter with yourself, for this new stage, more conscious, lighter, truer. From now on, your life can gain a new meaning. Not because it will become perfect, but because you will be more present in it. You will stop fighting against yourself. You will respect your time, your choices, your body. You will listen more and push less. And that changes absolutely everything. You are not alone. There are other people awakening, feeling, understanding what once seemed confusing. People like you, who carried deep pains but decided to use them as a bridge, and not as a prison anymore. By sharing your journey with sincerity, you help others do the same. And that is how your mission begins to expand naturally. Thank you for reading to the end. May this content have been a mirror, a hug, and a seed. May you continue listening to your soul, even when it's difficult. And may you never forget, the pain that brought you down can be the same that lifts you up. Because now you know, you are chosen.